just really putting a strain on the business. We did modify hours to keep, the employees safe.
This video captured the 5th time this year Marks has been broken into or vandalized.
California's shoplifting crisis has only intensified. What began as smash-and-grab thefts at luxury boutiques has spilled over into everyday neighborhood businesses. Bodegas, sandwich shops, and corner hot dog stands are now being hit too. These small operators often keep little or no cash on hand, which only underscores the point. Thieves aren't just after big scores anymore. They're brazenly stripping entire communities of security and livelihood. If nothing changes, the pattern suggests a slow-motion collapse of public order and local commerce, as even the most modest storefronts become unsafe to operate.
Takeover in Bellflower, quickly turning into a burglary free-for-all. New video shows the moments overnight that things at the intersection of Woodruff and Artesia got out of control.
The thieves break the glass at the door and then start rummaging around all 3 places, going to the cash register and then going to the back room.
What are they stealing?
Wine.
No kidding.
About 10 bottles of wine off the shelf.
So no cash or anything, they're just coming for, wow.
Yeah, the big windows are expensive, the doors are even more expensive.
The fact that these criminal rings are targeting small business owners, local entrepreneurs, some of our most beloved local businesses and families who we support and care about is just infuriating.
Those responsible hopping from a gas station to a beauty store, breaking into ATMs and cash registers. This business owner saying he's now facing at least $10,000 in losses from the break-in.
One major factor driving California's theft epidemic is the lack of real consequences for selling potentially stolen goods in public spaces. In many parts of the state, vendors can set up on sidewalks and sell merchandise, no questions asked, even if it's clearly the kind of product commonly looted from local stores. This open-air resale environment has created the perfect incentive for theft. When criminals know they can flip stolen items quickly for cash without fear of prosecution, the cycle becomes self-sustaining. It's not just luxury retailers being hit anymore. While high-end jewelry stores are still prime targets, those thieves typically have to deal with traceable merchandise, gold watches, diamond rings, and designer handbags that can be tracked or recognized. Instead, what we're seeing now is a flood of thefts involving everyday consumer goods, bottles of wine, laundry detergent, chips, and energy drinks, because those items are easy to resell on the street for half price. There's no paper trail, no serial numbers, and no serious risk. For the thieves, it's fast, simple profit. But the problem has gone beyond stores with easily stolen merchandise. Incredibly, burglars are now breaking into businesses like chicken restaurants, hot dog stands, and delis, places that don't even carry items with resale value. The logic is straightforward but disturbing. In an environment where there are almost no consequences, every building becomes a potential payday. Maybe there's cash in the till, a laptop in the back office, a safe, or even personal items like phones or IDs that can be flipped online. Critics point out that this situation reflects a deeper failure of policy. California's so-called sanctuary approach, designed to protect undocumented immigrants from federal enforcement, has also been blamed for creating a broader sense of lawlessness, one where criminals believe they can operate freely. When theft under a certain dollar threshold is treated as a misdemeanor, offenders are often back on the streets within hours. For small businesses already struggling with inflation, labor costs, and recovery from the pandemic, that's devastating. Many of these crimes aren't just theft, they're acts of destruction. Doors are smashed, windows shattered, property vandalized. Yet even when the total damages climb into the thousands, prosecutions are rare. Police are reluctant to pursue minor theft cases, and local prosecutors often decline to file charges. This has left many shop owners feeling abandoned, while larger corporations hire private security or shutter entire locations. The result is an unraveling of trust between residents, law enforcement, and government. Neighborhoods that once felt safe now see repeated break-ins. Small business owners who built their livelihoods from scratch are closing their doors, and communities that used to thrive on local commerce are watching their storefronts empty out one by one. Critics say this is what happens when policies meant to promote fairness and compassion ignore accountability and deterrence. If there's no fear of punishment, the incentive to stop stealing disappears. What began as a progressive push for justice reform has, in the eyes of many, turned into a permissive system that rewards criminal behavior and punishes the hardworking people trying to hold their communities together. In short, California's theft crisis has evolved into a case study in unintended consequences, a reminder that when enforcement weakens and responsibility dissolves, it's the most vulnerable, not the most powerful, who end up paying the price.
recognizable as their famous orange dome-shaped building. Mark's Hot Dogs has been in business since 1936, nearly 90 years of serving East Side San Jose. But owner Mark McLean says a rash of burglaries is making it hard to keep the...
Why would anyone rob a hot dog stand? It sounds absurd, but in California's current climate, it's becoming disturbingly common, and the reason is painfully simple. There's no one around to stop it, and the criminals know it. Law enforcement presence is stretched thin. Shop owners are terrified to intervene, and even when arrests happen, most offenders are back on the streets within hours. The result is a free-for-all, where even the smallest, most defenseless vendors, people trying to make an honest living, are being targeted again and again. This isn't an isolated incident anymore. It's turning into a statewide epidemic. From San Francisco to Los Angeles, residents and small business owners are on edge, wondering what tomorrow will bring. If things are this bad now, what will it look like in 6 months or a year? For many, that question may not matter, because their businesses won't survive long enough to find out. Some are already closing down permanently after repeated robberies, too discouraged and too financially drained to keep rebuilding. It's a tragic cycle, the kind that erodes communities from within. A city block loses its corner deli, its local coffee shop, its late-night food stand, and suddenly the neighborhood doesn't feel the same. The people who brought life to the streets are disappearing, driven out not by competition or economic downturns, but by unchecked lawlessness. And yet, in the middle of this chaos, there's another problem: the information people get about what's really happening. In an age of instant news and social media, it's easy to get trapped inside an echo chamber, hearing only one side of the story. That's where platforms like Ground News come in. Tools that cut through the noise by collecting thousands of sources from across the political spectrum. For example, take a recent case where Illinois filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration over National Guard deployments to Chicago. If you only read the headlines from left-leaning outlets like MSNBC, you'd hear that the deployment was unlawful and politically motivated. But Ground News shows the full picture. Over 550 outlets covered that same story from every angle. It even provides bias ratings, factuality scores, and ownership transparency so you can see who's shaping the narrative. On the flip side, right-leaning sources like WSRP described it as a legal challenge to the president's plan, offering a very different framing of the same facts. That's why platforms like Ground News have become essential. They're ad-free, independent, and committed to cutting out corporate spin. If you want a genuinely balanced understanding of the stories shaping our country, whether it's about crime, immigration, or political disputes, it's the kind of tool that helps you think for yourself, instead of being swayed by one-sided reporting. You can check them out at ground.news/cash to get 40% off their Vantage plan, the same one used by professionals and journalists who care about balance. You can even scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description to start using it today. Now back to what's happening on the streets of California, because what's unfolding there is nothing short of shocking. The rise in theft and street crime isn't just about desperation or opportunity, it's about a complete breakdown of deterrence. When criminals know that robbing a food stand, looting a store, or smashing a window carries little to no consequence, the question stops being why are they doing this and becomes why wouldn't they? The bigger tragedy is that it's the working class, not the wealthy or the well-connected, who are suffering most. The hot dog vendors, small grocers, corner shop owners, they're the ones paying the price for policies that have blurred the line between compassion and chaos. What was once meant to create fairness has in many cases created fear. And if nothing changes soon, California's small business landscape might never recover.
This is crazy.
Security video shows the burglars smashing their way in through the glass front door. The founder and owner of Dinah's Chicken tells us the suspects quickly realized there was nothing to take after seeing the open register.
There's no money at a chicken restaurant. We take it home or take it to the bank. We don't leave it here for you to take.
After the burglars tore up Pearson's office, Glendale police say the duo smashed their way into El Pavo Bakery 2 doors down. They did it one last time next door at El Ruby.
That's the part nobody talks about. These thieves didn't even need to steal anything to cause damage. Just the act of breaking in, smashing doors, shattering windows, ripping out cash drawers is enough to leave small business owners devastated. It's not about what they took, it's about what they destroyed. You've got hardworking people who show up every day trying to keep their shops open, only to arrive in the morning and find the front door hanging off its hinges, glass everywhere, products ruined, and the cash register tossed onto the floor. And for what? So a group of opportunists could prove that they could do whatever they want because they know the system won't stop them. And you're absolutely right. Even if these criminals walked away empty-handed, the damage still costs thousands. The cleanup, the repairs, the downtime, it all adds up. Most of these small stores operate on razor-thin margins, so missing even a few days of business can mean losing rent money, payroll funds, or next month's inventory. Insurance can help, sure, but it's not a magic fix. There's the deductible, the waiting period, and the fact that once a claim is filed, premiums skyrocket. So next time someone says, well, at least they didn't steal anything, they're missing the point entirely. The real theft isn't just in the goods, it's in the peace of mind. It's in the sense of safety that once existed in these communities. Every time a window gets smashed and nobody's held accountable, it sends a message. This is normal now. And once that mindset takes root, everything changes. Business owners start closing earlier. They stop restocking expensive items. Some even stop hiring altogether because they can't afford to keep losing money. The community feels it. The streets get quieter, emptier, more hopeless. So yes, the thieves didn't get anything this time, but the real loss goes much deeper. These store owners are the ones paying for repairs, higher premiums, lost sales, and sleepless nights wondering if it's going to happen again. And let's be honest, it will. Because when criminals learn that even getting caught doesn't carry consequences, breaking in becomes just another night's work. And what makes it even more tragic, every one of these incidents chips away at the very idea that California is a safe place to live and build a business. When the cost of doing business includes the constant fear of being robbed, vandalized, or left to fend for yourself, that's not entrepreneurship, that's survival.
Premiums go up because they now operate in a high-crime environment. Even if these thieves leave empty-handed, the businesses are still worse off after the break-in. Look at this.
Where they again found an empty
Look at them,
register.
they got a crowbar.
It's frustrating, especially when it looks like they're young people.
Police say the suspects only got away with food from the 3 businesses in this strip mall. Investigators are trying to get fingerprints from what the suspects touched and find the car they were seen in on security.
This isn't just an isolated crime, it's part of a growing trend. Imagine a quiet strip mall on a weekday night, a nail salon, a coin-operated laundromat, a few restaurants serving late dinners, and a modest chicken place tucked between them. These aren't luxury boutiques or electronics stores with valuable inventory. They're small, hard-working businesses with thin profit margins and limited security. Yet lately, even these humble establishments are being hit as if they were vaults filled with cash. Thieves are no longer chasing only big paydays. They're striking wherever and whenever they please, confident that nothing will happen to them. And in one recent case, it wasn't what they stole that raised eyebrows. It was what they were looking for. At the chicken restaurant, investigators discovered that the burglars didn't just stop at the cash register or the kitchen. They forced their way into the back office, tearing through drawers, cabinets, and paperwork. That kind of behavior changes everything because it suggests they were after something far more valuable than loose change. Inside any small business office lies a trove of sensitive data. Employee records, social security numbers, copies of identification cards and passports, payroll files, bank account information, vendor invoices, and even handwritten notes with passwords. In the wrong hands, this information is worth a fortune. Criminals can sell it to identity thieves and hackers who operate on the dark web, trading in stolen data that fuels scams and financial fraud. One stolen identity might fetch hundreds of dollars, and a single break-in could expose dozens of employees to months of legal and financial hardship. Some experts believe these burglaries aren't random at all. The intrusions show signs of information scouting, criminals mapping out business vulnerabilities, gathering data that could later be used for tax scams, fraudulent business loans, or phishing operations. These are not the chaotic smash and grabs of old. They're part of a more insidious form of crime that targets both the physical and digital lifelines of small businesses. But not every incident is calculated or technical. Many are depressingly crude. In some cases, thieves break into restaurants or laundromats, rummage around and leave empty-handed. No cash, no merchandise, just broken doors and shattered windows. Their recklessness alone leaves destruction in its wake. For business owners, even an unproductive break-in is devastating. A single smashed door can cost thousands to repair. Equipment has to be replaced, security cameras reinstalled, and insurance claims filed. In the meantime, operations halt, workers lose wages, customers turn elsewhere, and owners spend sleepless nights wondering if the criminals will come back. These crimes bleed businesses dry in ways that insurance rarely covers. Policies have deductibles, and once a business is hit, premiums climb. In many cases, the financial damage far outweighs the value of anything stolen. The psychological toll is equally severe. Owners return to their workplaces to find glass on the floor, files thrown across the room, their sense of safety destroyed. They realize the criminals didn't care about what they stole, only that they could destroy something built through years of effort. In communities already struggling with high costs and thin margins, this cycle of theft and recovery is unsustainable. Each incident chips away at the fragile ecosystem that keeps small businesses alive. Many owners begin locking up earlier or reducing hours, some even shutting down entirely. What used to be vibrant local hubs become rows of boarded-up storefronts, quiet reminders of a system that has stopped protecting the very people who sustain it. At the core of all this is a growing sense of lawlessness. Criminals have learned that even if they're caught, they'll likely walk free within hours because most of these crimes fall under misdemeanor theft thresholds. That reality emboldens them. They act without fear, knowing that punishment rarely fits the harm they cause. The people left to pay the price are the small business owners, those who can't afford guards, private patrols, or reinforced security systems. What was once petty theft has evolved into a symbol of decay. The strip mall, once the heartbeat of neighborhood life, now stands as a battlefield between hardworking citizens and those who exploit a broken system. Every shattered door and looted office tells the same story. Crime no longer needs a reason, only an opportunity.
Look at it.
After they've been repeatedly smashed in by vehicles.
They sell chips and soda.
This is the third time we've been broken into within a year.
What are they stealing?
Wine.
No kidding.
About 10 bottles of wine off the shelf.
So no cash or anything, they're just coming for, wow.
Yeah, the big windows are expensive, the doors are even more expensive, and of course, we're incurring the expense.
What maybe ends up as a few
so
$100s in wine stolen costs Antipastos around
Unbelievable. They sank $15,000 into repairs after repeated thefts that only amounted to about $300 in wine over 3 months. That math doesn't work for a small business. The real damage isn't the handful of stolen items, it's the broken glass, forced doors, ruined inventory, lost hours of operation, and the spike in insurance costs afterward. Those repair bills, lost income, and higher premiums are what actually bankrupt neighborhood businesses long before the thieves ever face real consequences. Part of the problem is legal thresholds. When stolen goods amount to a few $100s, many jurisdictions treat the crime as a misdemeanor. That means offenders are often cited, released, or given minimal penalties, consequences that do little to deter repeat behavior. Criminals quickly learn there's little risk, grab items, do the damage, and you walk away. For them, it's low reward, but even lower risk. For the business owner, it's catastrophic. Insurance helps when it can, but policies come with deductibles and limits. After a claim, premiums climb, and the owner pays out of pocket for immediate repairs and lost revenue while waiting for reimbursements. A few smash and grabs can wipe out months of profit. Even when nothing of high value is taken, the cost to reopen, replacing locks, repairing storefronts, cleaning up debris, restocking food and supplies, and the lost wages for employees during closures quickly adds up and becomes unsustainable. The ripple effects go beyond a single storefront. If small eateries, laundromats, and corner shops are repeatedly targeted, they cut hours, lay off staff, or close entirely. Neighborhood foot traffic drops, remaining businesses suffer, and commercial vacancies rise. The community loses services, jobs, and vibrancy, and the local economy spirals downward. There's also a darker layer. Burglars who ransack back offices may be looking for data or documents, not just cash. Employee records, IDs, invoices, and banking information can be sold to fraudsters or used in identity theft schemes. So even a theft that looks minor on the surface can trigger months of identity recovery for employees and customers, plus legal headaches for the business. All of this creates a perverse incentive. If surrendering a few low-value items without breaking things would let a shop stay open, some owners feel they'd be better off placating thieves than paying thousands to fix damage and raise premiums. That's an absurd choice to force on people trying to run honest livelihoods. It's a sign of systemic failure, from enforcement thresholds that don't deter repeat offenders to enforcement resources stretched thin to a legal framework that leaves victims carrying most of the cost. The result is predictable and grim. The criminals get effectively free rein, and the small businesses pay the real price financially, emotionally, and operationally. Communities with already thin margins and fragile local economies are the ones that suffer most. The long-term cost is not just a few bottles of wine, it's boarded-up storefronts, lost jobs, and neighborhoods that no longer feel safe or worth investing in.
Businesses are not immune. We reported on the jewelry store robbery that occurred just a few weeks prior to the Antipastos incident. Many in the community want to see more done to prevent these crimes from happening.
These are our neighbors that are being attacked. Our city has grown, and we need to keep up with that growth. We need to have more policing. We need to have more protection.
Councilmember Peter Ortiz.
So she points out that the city has grown, and that's true. The population has expanded, but that raises a critical question. Who exactly are these new residents responsible for breaking into local businesses? These aren't casual, first-time offenders who just got desperate overnight. No, the individuals targeting these stores are people who have engaged in criminal behavior before. They're seasoned, experienced in committing theft, and they know exactly how to exploit the system. Consider this. If local jails were properly utilized and filled with repeat offenders, a lot of this crime wouldn't be happening. Imagine if the legal consequences were real, consistent, and enforced. These individuals wouldn't feel emboldened enough to smash through storefronts or rip through shelves without a second thought. Instead, the reality in this city is the exact opposite. Law enforcement resources are stretched thin, sentencing for low-level theft is often minimal, and many of these incidents are treated as misdemeanors with little real penalty. That lack of deterrence has created an environment where criminals can operate with impunity. Now think about the mindset of someone walking into a store and stealing a few bottles of wine. This isn't a spontaneous, irrational decision that occurs one morning. These aren't people waking up and weighing a moral choice. Do I put on a suit, go to work, and earn an honest paycheck, or do I sneak into a store and take what isn't mine? That's not how it happens. These are individuals who have chosen crime repeatedly because they've discovered it's the path of least resistance. They've spent years honing their methods, figuring out the easiest ways to bypass security and identifying which businesses are the most vulnerable. They're not amateurs. They're professionals in petty and sometimes more serious theft, and their actions show it. Why are they so skilled? Why are they so comfortable committing these crimes without fear? Because the system has failed to stop them. Over the years, there have been minimal repercussions, either because the value of stolen goods didn't meet criminal thresholds, or because the enforcement mechanisms were underfunded, understaffed, or politically constrained. The lack of consequences has essentially trained them to be better criminals. Each successful theft without punishment reinforces their behavior, giving them confidence to escalate or repeat their crimes. The result is a vicious cycle. Businesses are left vulnerable, small thefts turn into significant financial burdens from property damage and lost revenue, and the criminals keep operating openly because there's no real fear of accountability. Experienced offenders know the rules of the game, they've learned what the system will and won't do, and that knowledge allows them to exploit loopholes, gaps in enforcement, and social policies that inadvertently protect them. The city grows, yes, but along with that growth comes a rising tide of criminal activity, fueled not by desperation alone, but by an environment where repeat offenders are effectively rewarded with freedom to continue. This isn't just about wine bottles or smashed windows, it's a symptom of a deeper problem. A community that struggles to enforce laws effectively, and a justice system that fails to impose consequences that actually deter repeat crime. The more this goes unaddressed, the more confident these criminals become, and the more entrenched the problem gets. It's a scenario where nothing is done to stop experienced criminals from doing what they've always done, and the consequences, both for businesses and the community at large, continue to mount.
But regulars say crime in the area has become a serious problem.
Right down the street, we've been having a lot of car break-ins and where we live at.
Oh, yeah?
We should have a better police monitoring of this area.
I don't know why we're having all these hits at these restaurants. It seems like we're not the only one that's been hit.
Mark's Hot Dogs isn't the only San Jose staple dealing with burglary issues. We told you about Antipastos and their recent thefts. It's a trend that San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan calls
California's small business crime problem has escalated into a full-blown crisis. Over the past several years, what might have once been isolated incidents of petty theft has evolved into a widespread, organized pattern of criminal behavior that threatens the survival of many small businesses. This isn't just about high-end stores or luxury items anymore. Even small corner shops, delis, laundromats, and local eateries are being targeted. The expansion of urban centers and shifts in demographics have brought new residents to California cities, but a troubling subset of this growth includes individuals who have repeatedly engaged in criminal activity and now exploit the lack of accountability to commit theft with near-total impunity. These offenders are not casual, first-time criminals who wake up one day and decide to commit a minor act of theft. Instead, they are seasoned, experienced operators who know exactly how to identify vulnerabilities in businesses and exploit legal loopholes. They understand which stores are less likely to have security measures, which streets have minimal surveillance, and how to act without immediate fear of being arrested or prosecuted. Many of these criminals have been emboldened by California's legal and political environment, where low-level theft is often treated as a misdemeanor, and the penalties do not provide a meaningful deterrent. Consider the scenario of a thief targeting a small local business for a few $100s worth of inventory. While the financial value of the items may seem minor, the cost to the business often far exceeds the amount stolen. The break-in itself causes damage, smashed windows, forced entry, and disorganized interiors, which must be repaired. Even if the business has insurance, deductibles, increased premiums, and downtime while repairs are made adds significant financial strain. For instance, a local deli might lose several days of business while broken glass is removed and inventory is reorganized, all because a thief targeted a few bottles of wine or some packaged goods. The cost of cleanup, repairs, and lost revenue can reach tens of thousands of dollars, far outpacing the value of what was stolen. What makes the situation even more alarming is the calculated nature of these crimes. Some thieves don't just grab visible merchandise, they rummage through offices and storage areas, seeking sensitive information. Employee records, copies of identification documents, banking information, and cash are all at risk during such break-ins. These criminals may sell this data to hackers or other illicit operators, creating a secondary layer of harm that extends beyond physical theft. In many ways, the damage done by these offenses is as much digital and administrative as it is material. One critical reason these offenders remain unchallenged is the inadequacy of law enforcement response. Jails in California, where they exist, are often overcrowded or limited in capacity, and low-level theft is frequently not treated as a priority. When a crime is categorized as a misdemeanor, even substantial property damage may not lead to jail time, effectively granting repeat offenders freedom to continue their criminal activities. Over time, this lack of consequences trains criminals to be more daring and sophisticated, and it normalizes theft as a low-risk, high-reward endeavor. The cycle is vicious. As offenders operate with impunity, businesses are forced to invest more in security measures, cameras, reinforced doors, alarm systems, but even these precautions cannot always prevent theft or mitigate the costs of repeated incidents. A small business might spend tens of thousands of dollars reinforcing their premises, only for a thief to break in again. This financial burden, combined with lost inventory and disruption of operations, can force businesses to close, leaving communities with fewer services and jobs. Furthermore, these criminal behaviors have broader social implications. Experienced offenders who operate without fear of legal consequence create a climate of instability. Local communities feel unsafe, residents become wary of shopping locally, and legitimate business owners face escalating stress and financial pressure. These dynamics can erode community cohesion and discourage new businesses from opening in areas where theft and property crime are rampant. From a policy perspective, California's approach to misdemeanor theft and sanctuary protections for certain populations has been criticized for inadvertently encouraging criminal activity. When legal consequences are minimal, and when criminals perceive a low likelihood of apprehension, the environment essentially rewards repeat offenders. Critics argue that if the justice system consistently held offenders accountable, both through incarceration and restitution, it would significantly reduce repeat offenses. But in the current system, offenders often walk away with no meaningful penalty, leaving the financial and emotional toll on small business owners. The consequences are also disproportionately felt by small independent businesses compared to large corporations. Big retail chains often have comprehensive insurance, advanced security systems, and legal teams capable of managing repeated incidents. Small businesses, however, operate on thinner margins, and the financial impact of repeated thefts can be devastating. For many local restaurants, convenience stores, or specialty shops, even a few $1,000s in damages and lost inventory can be the difference between staying open and permanently closing. The psychological toll is also considerable. Business owners and employees face constant anxiety about potential break-ins, which affects day-to-day operations and quality of life. Staff may feel unsafe at work, and owners may feel trapped between the need to protect their livelihood and the lack of systemic support to do so. The stress can lead to burnout, staff turnover, and a reduction in community services and social engagement. Moreover, these thefts are not always opportunistic. Many are executed with precision and premeditation. Criminals often surveil locations in advance, noting security camera placement, peak and off-peak business hours, and patterns of employee behavior. They plan entries and exits carefully, sometimes using vehicles to ram doors or block visibility, maximizing their ability to commit theft quickly and escape. This level of planning underscores that these are not random, desperate acts. They are deliberate, calculated criminal strategies designed to exploit systemic weaknesses. The broader economic impact extends beyond the individual businesses themselves. When theft becomes rampant, commercial property values can decline, insurance premiums across an area increase, and investment in the local economy slows. Prospective business owners may be deterred from opening new shops in high-theft areas, reducing economic opportunity and community growth. Existing businesses may have to raise prices to offset losses, which can negatively affect local residents and create a cycle of economic strain. In addition, the repeated targeting of small businesses contributes to a culture of normalized crime. Younger individuals may see the lack of consequences as tacit approval, learning that theft is a viable means of survival or profit. Without a strong legal deterrent, criminal behavior can become embedded in community culture, making it more difficult to reverse these trends over time. Law enforcement officials acknowledge these challenges, but resources are limited. Police departments and city officials must balance crime prevention across diverse needs, including violent crime, traffic safety, and property theft. Meanwhile, prosecutors and courts face backlogs and legal constraints, particularly when addressing low-level theft cases. The result is a systemic gap in accountability, which experienced offenders exploit repeatedly. California's small business crime problem is therefore multi-layered. It involves not just individual thefts but systemic policy gaps, under-resourced enforcement, economic pressures on small business owners, and social consequences for communities. Addressing it requires a comprehensive strategy, stronger enforcement of repeat offenses, meaningful penalties for property crimes, community education, business support programs, and perhaps reforms in misdemeanor laws to ensure that repeat offenders face consequences that deter future criminal activity. Without such measures, the cycle of theft, economic strain, and community erosion will continue to escalate. The story of small business crime in California is not just about stolen merchandise or damaged property. It's a cautionary tale of how legal frameworks, enforcement priorities, and economic realities intersect to shape the environment for crime. Until policymakers, law enforcement, and communities align to address these challenges holistically, the threat to small businesses and the vitality of neighborhoods will persist, leaving countless entrepreneurs struggling to survive in a system that too often fails to protect them.
This is home security video from just last night outside a home in the Cambrian neighborhood of San Jose. As you see, they calmly approach the parked cars and without breaking windows or locks, begin rummaging for valuables.
How'd they get in?
One neighbor, who asked us not to use their name or face, said he couldn't tell for sure, but believes he might have seen them outside his home late last night.
Oh, the case in the place.
There were some kids in there. One was out of the car, one was in the car, and when they saw me, I yelled at him, "Get out of here," and one of the...
This is the same pattern we saw at the chicken shop. Thieves smash their way in, rifle through anything that looks like it might hold cash or valuables, and then wander into the back offices hoping for something useful. Sometimes they find a register with money, sometimes not. Often the businesses come away with nothing taken but thousands of dollars in damage and days of lost revenue while they repair broken glass and replace locks. The victims never get the headlines they deserve. What's worse, the same playbook is being practiced everywhere. Cars left in driveways are ripped off and then used as blunt instruments to ram storefronts. Apartment parking lots become convenience stores for criminals, casing unlocked vehicles, and landlords and residents wake up to find windows shattered and personal items gone. This isn't random opportunism, it's rehearsal. The criminals are refining methods: how to smash a door with a stolen SUV, where to look in an office for documents or bank info, which neighborhoods have the weakest security and slowest police response, and where do those ramming vehicles come from? From people's own blocks. Cars taken from driveways and curbside parking are being repurposed as tools of theft. That link from vehicle theft to aggravated property crime is the part that makes the problem systemic. A stolen car becomes not only a means of escape but a weapon to breach storefronts, turning what might have been a single theft into a massive, costly incident. We've essentially taught a generation of petty criminals by giving them the classroom of the street and then failing to enforce the rules. Decriminalization and light-touch penalties for low-level property offenses have removed the immediate consequences that once deterred repeat offenders. When breaking into a deli or swiping a few bottles from a store is treated as a slap on the wrist, the calculus changes. The risk is low, the potential gain, especially when you can quickly flip goods or extract personal data from office files, can be significant. In short order, someone can go from petty opportunist to practice thief. The result is predictable. Businesses are left to shoulder the cost of repairs, higher insurance premiums, and the lost hours of being closed. Residents lose vehicles and personal security, and whole neighborhoods feel less safe. Meanwhile, offenders get better at committing crimes because the system rarely bites back hard enough to stop them. That gap between action and consequence is what turns small crime into organized patterns of predation, and it's exactly why this cycle keeps accelerating.
Another neighbor also captured video of break-ins. In this one, you can hear sounds of the break-in. This is the second time in a week people here contacted NBC Bay Area to tell them about a rash of car break-ins. Several people said they were victims and that this isn't the first time their vehicles have been hit. San Jose police said at that time they were not aware of any burglary ring operating in the area. They did not respond to our request for comment.
The level of crime in this state is staggering, and it's worsened by the fact that law enforcement often seems unaware of the organized crime networks operating openly. There are so many rings that criminals can act freely, striking wherever and whenever they want, taking full advantage of gaps in enforcement while facing little to no meaningful consequences. This is a sanctuary state, and its policies, whether intentionally or not, shield virtually every type of offender from petty thieves to highly experienced criminals. Residents report repeated victimization, yet authorities frequently claim ignorance. Sadly, that's hardly surprising in such an environment. This isn't to blame the police entirely. Consider the challenges officers face. Newly trained personnel graduate from the academy, earn a badge, and head out onto the streets with minimal real-world experience. They're expected to contend with offenders who have spent years committing theft and other crimes, learning how to exploit security weaknesses and escape without getting caught. These aren't amateurs, these are skilled criminals, seasoned in breaking into businesses, homes, and vehicles. Every time a criminal successfully commits a burglary or theft without facing consequences, they gain experience. They learn what works, what fails, how to escape, and how to return to similar targets again and again. The system, by failing to hold them accountable, inadvertently trains them. Each successful offense reinforces their confidence and encourages escalation. Essentially, they're getting a masterclass in crime, perfecting their methods week after week while the community bears the cost. Accountability is key to breaking this cycle. When someone breaks into a business and causes tens of thousands of dollars in damage, there should be immediate, real consequences. These aren't minor infractions, they're deliberate, repeated offenses that harm people, livelihoods, and the local economy. Offenders should either face jail time or be required to make full restitution. Anything less only strengthens the behavior and guarantees that crime will continue. Currently, too many criminals walk free. The justice system treats them as ordinary people who made a mistake rather than repeat offenders who are systematically targeting homes, vehicles, and businesses. The prevailing attitude seems to be that anyone could make a mistake, so leniency is warranted. But these are not one-time lapses, these are calculated crimes committed by individuals who know exactly what they're doing and are exploiting a permissive environment. Professional thieves only respond to consequences. Jail time, restitution, and tangible accountability are the only things they respect. The more offenders are held responsible for their actions, the more crime decreases. When accountability is enforced, neighborhoods become safer, local businesses can operate without constant fear, and the cycle of theft and destruction slows. Without these consequences, criminals continue gaining confidence, perfecting their methods, and expanding their impact. The broader systemic issue is that sanctuary policies and lenient enforcement inadvertently train and reward criminals. The system treats them like ordinary people making minor mistakes, when in reality, they are the ones causing repeated thefts, smashing into cars and storefronts, and leaving communities to shoulder the damage and losses. These offenders are not like most of us. They are highly skilled at exploiting the gaps in the system, and the only thing they understand is accountability. The more offenders experience real consequences for their crimes, the less crime will occur. Strict enforcement, consistent jail time, and full restitution are the tools that work. Without them, the cycle continues. Criminals refine their methods, businesses close or suffer heavy losses, and residents live in constant fear. Sanctuary policies that prioritize leniency over accountability only embolden offenders and put the burden on innocent people. Ultimately, solving this crisis requires a shift from treating criminals as ordinary people to holding them fully accountable. A robust justice system that enforces laws consistently, ensuring that theft, property destruction, and repeat offenses carry real consequences, is the only way to break the cycle. Until that happens, criminals will keep honing their craft, communities will continue to pay the price, and the problem will only worsen. At the end of the day, everyone watching needs to understand the stakes. The criminals in these videos are not casual offenders. They are practiced, persistent, and operating in an environment that has allowed them to flourish. The only language they respond to is accountability. Strengthen enforcement, impose real consequences, and the cycle begins to break. That's the reality of crime in this state today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.